Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome. I want to conclude today's series on giants with a conclusion that I think would be applicable in light of every one of the giants of the five that we have studied. And I want to talk to you about Ishbi-Benob today. And he was the giant of discouragement, the giant of disillusionment and disappointment. But the concluding fact is that there is one big thing that I think needs to be contended with as we look at the issue of this disappointment and this disillusionment and this discouragement thing. There's not one of us that can't identify with it, first of all. But let me say to you, there are two great examples in the Bible of people who had to face this, and they both had completely different outlooks. Fortunately, both of them ended rather positively. The first guy who had to contend with would be the guy Job. And Job had to contend with every one of the other four things. Do you care, God, about me, that I'm in such a condition as I am? God, are you being unfair that you judge me according to, standards that are way beyond my ability? God, why are you so silent? God, why do you hide yourself? And there was the cry that came from this totally discouraged and disappointed human being. It all ended well when he saw a revelation of who God is. And when he saw the revelation of who God is and what God is like and the mystery of who God is, that he'll never be able to understand the ways of God, that was a turning point for this man, Job. Totally legitimate. And maybe today, in light of all of the giants, we need to have the same experience, where we begin to see that God is not somebody to be understood. He's not out there for us to be able to make sense of the way that he does stuff. If he did that, he would not be God. God is God, and he does what only God can do, and he does what God wants to do. So don't try and put God in a box. Stop thinking with your heart, think with your head, and you come to a far better conclusion. But my hero today is not just that Job is a great guy, take nothing away from his incredible story and the wonderful ending to it, but there's another guy called Joseph. Joseph is my man at a time like this. Can you imagine the discouragement, the disillusionment, and the disappointment that Joseph must have had to absorb and still retain his great reputation with God? Sold as a slave, rejected from his family. Boy, that's pretty disappointing, but that's just the beginning of his story. Goes into slavery, rises up. He then becomes a steward. That's a great part. But then he becomes a prisoner as he's lied about, and all that good that has been done is taken away. And he finds himself in even a lower position than he was when he was a slave. And then he comes out of that, and he's been disappointed by the people in prison who promised that they would represent him well when they get out of prison. Go and read the story. His life was just an up and down story of highs, great highs, and incredible lows. And as the highs got higher, the lows got lower. And we never, ever read of Joseph complaining. Never once did we read of Job saying, God, this is so unfair. Why have I had to suffer this thing? I don't know anybody else who's suffered the way that I have. He never once questioned, God, are you still here? He questioned never the fact that God might be unfair, or that God didn't know what he was doing, or God didn't care. He never once questioned, God, why are you so silent? Why don't you explain yourself at a time like this? He never once said, God, why do you hide? In fact, when you read the story of Joseph at the last section of the book of Genesis, you see the complete opposite. He's so affirming that even though the situation is really, really bad, he says, God, you are with me. And the people that saw him go through those tough times said the same thing, time after time after time. And God was with Joseph, even though the situation stank, even though it went from bad to worse. The people saw by the response of Joseph to the circumstances he was going through, he never once questioned God. He passed the test of not putting God to the test. And there's a beautiful expression right at the end of the book as he meets with his brothers, and he has power to do them in, power to punish them, power to make them pay for what they have done. And the brothers are confused. They say, Joseph, why are you being so kind to us? Joseph, why aren't you using your power to beat the heck out of us? Why aren't you using that? And Joseph, with a smile, would have said, you know what, guys, what you intended for evil, and you can finish this, God intended for good. Whenever we realize that God has taken us through tough times, whenever we experience disappointment with God or disillusionment, or we wonder whether God is still with us, and we begin to question his existence, we begin to think that maybe he's abandoned us or he's left us, people, let's put a smile on our faces. Whatever you go through, God intends it for your good, not for your evil. God intends it for your good. When you really believe this in your head, then let your head tell your heart that. I don't care how you're feeling, heart. I don't care what you're experiencing, what emotions you're going through. The head will rule the heart to say, you know what, heart? God is still on the throne. Everybody wants to know, where is God when I hurt? Let me tell you, people, he's where he's always been. He's in you, he's with you, and he's on his throne. Nothing has changed at all. So let's end this series today with that incredible affirmation of who God is, his commitment to us, and the wonder that God is God and you are not. Go and have a great day. It's been wonderful being with you with this little series. Cheers.